So
that's okay. If people are just sitting there laughing at me, that's fine too.
You're not bitter about it. Your gums aren't bleeding because of it.
I'm here for your amusement. Are you not entertained?
You're listening to the Janchi Show, hosted by 3 Korean American adoptees diving headfirst into what it means to be adopted, Korean, American, and more. And now, here's your hosts, Nathan, Patrick, and KJ.
Welcome back to the Janchi Show. Hello, people. I am one of your co-hosts, Nathan Nowak, along with co-host KJ and a new co-host today, a special guest co-host, Shené. How are we doing, everyone?
Good.
Very tired. So tired.
That too.
I know. I felt when I came into that with the all that enthusiasm, then I was like, you know what? I'm a lot more tired than
you were like. I feel like I just
now.
lied to everyone,
I know.
Mostly myself, about how energetic I actually am.
Exactly. That was just for the opening. We are tired, but we are here. We are still the Janchi Show. Patrick is in Korea currently. So we have, our special guest here. So Shené, thank you for joining us. Ooh, watch this. Shené, what does Janchi mean?
It
means party.
Yes, we use it as feast, party, celebrate, because we are all Korean adoptees. We all have something to feast and celebrate. So, we are, here in September. What have you guys been up to? Are you guys, I know you were tired. Is this just work, family? What are you guys feeling? What could make it better?
Speaking of tired, it's October, right, Nathan?
So,
did I say September? Oops.
Yeah, you did.
Get the month.
So you're like we didn't leave last month, did we? I have things to do eventually. I don't know. I mean, for me, I'm just like, I had a moment of rest, which is great. And then now everything is getting super busy, especially in the church world. Like this is the beginning of the busy season in terms of production, so that the rest of the world hits December and we're already like very tired and have to like find the energy to like be welcoming to people. So I don't know. I mean, it's a time that I'm in. And all the house stuff is done for the most part. So I don't have that.
Your kitchen's finished?
It's just professional busyness. It's professional busyness and not personal busyness. So that's nice.
That's good. I mean, it's the holidays. I think the holidays can be busy for everybody as we go into the holidays. That is. I mean,
it's like it's not even the holidays, but I already
even
feel
yet.
Like,
I mean,
there's
Halloween's
only like 2 weeks
until
until Thanksgiving, right?
So sure. I mean, Halloween I consider kind of an ordeal, at least for some. For me, at least, I have to decorate and get the kids' costumes ready and things like that. But it's also Allison's birthday, so I always have to. It's like right around that same time.
Her birthday's on Halloween?
No, it's 2 days before. It's 29th. So.
Oh, I was like, how have we not talked about that?
Yeah, but it's just little planning things, and then you're right. Thanksgiving, and then right into Christmas and New Year's. But Shené, what about you? You're busy with your ventures and your family life.
Yeah, I feel like I have started going back to work, which has been wild, very much needed, but somehow managed to start going back to work, but still not have consistent childcare. So that's been a really fun balancing act. And at the same time, Clara has decided that sleep is for the weak. She's learning a bunch of new words and simultaneously has decided like, I don't need to sleep anymore. So I'm going to be up in the middle of the night and start my day at 4:30. And so we've been drinking a lot of coffee in this household.
How does that go for you? Because sometimes I'm like, coffee is super helpful. And then other times I'm like, that just made me incredibly anxious. And then other times I'm like, that gave me heart palpitations and I should probably stop, but I keep doing it anyways. What's your coffee rhythm like?
Yeah, it's like, I think on the one hand, it gives me enough energy to like survive another hour. But at the same time, I agree with you, like the heart palpitations. But then when like you're sleep deprived, and if that's why you're drinking the coffee, sometimes it gets really hard to discern whether or not it's the coffee that's making you feel like absolutely nuts, or if it's just like the sleep deprivation kicking in.
Right.
I just go with the constant stream of coffee to never have any of those other issues. Yeah, so
that's the way to do it.
This is my third, I think, right now. So.
Oh my gosh, get those little coffee candy things.
Oh, I have some. The
Koreans do.
I have some coffee candy ones, and I also have coffee chocolate. Just because I like chocolate. So if I ever need a little kick that way, it's like just it's like a chocolate bar, but it's got caffeine in it. So
do you ever double up and like eat the coffee candy or the coffee chocolate while drinking coffee at the same time?
I may have done that a couple of times.
Do you ever just like make hot chocolate with the coffee chocolate and then put that into your coffee, or vice versa?
I mean, that's essentially
like, this coffee needs more coffee.
Yeah. What was it? I heard a long time ago somebody made coffee, and then they put it back in the coffee maker and made a second round of coffee instead of putting water. In the coffee maker, they put coffee in the coffee maker and just made it like extra.
For the listeners at home who can't see our faces, Shené and I both just looked at you like you were crazy.
I know that I did that.
You aren't the one who did it. Yeah, you're right. You're right. It was just a natural reaction of like, why on earth would you do that? Why?
But I mean, you can add coffee to espresso, so that's a thing. I haven't done that yet either. But again, I'm just going for the constant stream. I don't need super high content, like concentrated craziness. I just need the constant mild to keep me throughout the day so that I don't fall asleep. But the downside of that, though, of course, is when you stop drinking coffee or something, you sometimes get headaches.
Mm.
Yeah, that's the worst.
That's not good. That definitely means I'm drinking too much coffee if I start getting headaches. But Shené, you came back on our show. I was trying to... KJ just mentioned that you were on our show some 20 episodes ago, and what has been going on since then? What have you been doing? What have you been up to? So I know you had your podcasts. I know you had Soul Conversations on online, and then you had your presentation at Con. So, but what else have you been up to?
Yeah, I feel like 20 episodes was forever ago, and it's funny too because like Soul Conversations is on pause right now. And I, like we've still kind of been meeting behind the scenes, Benny and Kara and I, and like we just got to a point where we, had added Kara for the third season and got to a point where I think we want to be more intentional about what we do and more mindful about our time and respective schedules. And we haven't come up with like a good working formula. I mean, you all know you're doing the same thing, right? Like it's a lot of work to find guests and get to a point where like people are coming to you and you're not chasing them. And then editing and social media. And when we talked, we all kind of decided, or it came out that we all strongly dislike the same things. Like we all really don't like, we don't like, needing to constantly engage on Instagram. And, we don't like specifically the Instagram piece. So as we're all trying to independently like disentangle from Instagram, yet need someone to do Instagram, we're like, oh, this is a big problem, and then you think about, well, we could hire somebody to do the Instagram. And then it gets into like, well, we don't like chasing people. So then which of us wants to go out and hire someone, and how do we monetize? And so they're all things we're talking about, and we're not, necessarily gone for good, but I think we're just thinking about like as Soul Conversation, sort of as a brand, how heavily do we want to stay solely in the podcasting world? Do we want to maybe branch out? Because I think we also are really passionate about wanting to amplify adoptee voices, but just trying to figure out a way that's more sustainable and like authentic to who we are as people, because we're all very like different personality wise. I think people who listen to the show definitely can tell that we're all, more extroverted or introverted depending upon who it is or what's going on. But when you asked me to come on, Nathan, I was like just going through to get my stuff. I was like, oh, I need to get my microphone and like get things. And I have no idea where it is. It's like, it's been so far packed up and out of my brain. I was like, I don't know where it is. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like very rusty.
So you're saying that we shouldn't ask you to edit this episode too afterwards, or?
No, see, that's the thing.
Like, so no, I've forgotten how computers work.
I do edit Soul Conversations, and that's one of the other reasons that we're on pause, is I'm the sole editor and things are like crazy and I just couldn't keep up with things. But yeah, I do like the editing, but no, you probably don't want me editing this episode of the podcast.
No, I'm incredibly grateful for both KJ and Patrick doing the editing, because I mean, I know how to edit my home videos, and that's about it. I don't know a single thing about audio editing, so I'm happy that they have been doing that this entire time, and that they leave the snack picking to me and stuff like that. So it is. It's there's some some nice delegation of different tasks that I think for us have worked out well, but yeah, I totally hear you. If you guys all like and dislike the same things, it kind of gets to that point where, so now who's going to do this?
So. Yep. Who wants to do that thing that they don't really want to do, but take one for the team?
Yeah. But really enjoyed your con session, though. You guys did a great job there. Did you really enjoy that? And like the in-person, number one, not having to edit anything or really do anything after that, but did you enjoy that type of conversation and in front of like a live audience?
Yeah, I think that is something that we all like collectively enjoyed, and like that we've been talking about sort of behind the scenes, that we did really like presenting. I think personally for me, con was a little weird for me personally. Like I think I was really excited, but then like the weekend of, it was like the week leading up to it, like people in my family got sick and people were traveling, and it just like I got there and I was so drained that I felt like I wasn't like on my A game, and I don't do well in situations where there are like a lot of people that I don't know. And granted, you know people through social media and stuff, but I think being put in a position where I felt a little bit like I was responsible for not like putting on a show, but like putting on a certain face and like being very on and being like outgoing and engaging with other people, when A, I was just like automatically really tired going into it, and B, just like I'm really introverted. It's like not a comfortable thing for me. I think that was interesting. And also I think I was a little bit surprised and not surprised at like kind of the sobering reality that at the end of the day, we all just are Korean adoptees. And that's really where like the commonality stops. Like, I think I naively went into it thinking like, oh, you're going to jive with everybody, and it's going to be this like nice, like kumbaya. Everyone's going to be all like warm and fuzzy. And not to say that people weren't, but I think there were definitely, some things that surprised me. And you forget about, generationally, there are differences just in terms of like preference. Like, I think, there was a little bit of like, well, what do you mean you don't speak Korean? Or what do you mean you haven't gone to Korea? And like, I think sometimes we as adoptees like forget that it's interesting, right? Like as a community, we get so upset when people say stuff to us like that and tell us to, we're not Korean enough, or, we're too white, or we're too whatever. But then like, there are definitely some instances where like we do that to each other.
For sure.
And I think, that was definitely like a larger component of that weekend for me than I thought it was going to be.
I find myself struggling with that as well. Sometimes putting my opinion on my own story and the things that I've done. And actually, Patrick just posted on it briefly today on his Instagram when he was talking about how when we do these shows, we talk about adoption from our point of view and through our stories, and not other people's stories. And hopefully, we're not implying anything that when we talk about that anyone else should do these things, or that if you haven't done the same things that we've done, it's wrong, or things like that. So, and that's sometimes for sure when I talk to people, I try to hold back, for example, the biological family search, it's everyone's preference. And even though, there's good and bad outcomes and, good and bad reasons to do it. And some people do, and some people don't want to do it. It's all fine. I was just one of the fortunate ones that, had a good outcome of that. And so, if that helps anyone, that's great. But if it, does the opposite and makes people mad that I, that I talk about that, then I'm sorry. So,
Yeah, I think it's interesting too. Like I went to this conference. It's a Dallas Fort Worth chapter of the National Association of Asian American Professionals, so NAAAP, or NAP as they abbreviated it there.
I like NAP.
Which is a wild time. It was obviously just Asian Americans, in the Dallas area. So not adoptee related, but the keynote speaker was Stephanie Dranka, who's a Korean adoptee in the area. A workshop leader and panelist was Jae Hee, who is, again, a Korean adoptee in the area and is in the field of psychotherapy. I don't know. She can correct me later. I think that's right. She's like a therapist and sociologist and kind of all those things. And so maybe not both, but in that realm. And it was interesting being able to hear from both of them. And Stephanie is generationally closer to me in terms of like what wave of adoptee, like Korean adoptee we are, and Jae Hee is like the previous wave, which might be kind of the one that y'all are on the tail ends of. And then obviously we've had a number of first wave Korean adoptees on our show. And I think even like not just generationally in terms of like as an American demographic generation, but also I think as a subset of like the waves of adoption. It's interesting to see like how those two things interplay and how they combine to create either some really unifying or some potentially really caustic atmospheres, even amongst Korean adoptees, and then combined with like what part of the country you grew up in and lots of other factors, it can be a real hodgepodge for like, oh, you're a person just like I'm a person, and I forgot that I don't like everyone. That's my general take is I hate everyone. So yeah.
I mean, that is true. The generational thing, is a tough one because it doesn't matter if you share commonalities, even if there is strong of something as a Korean adoptee, but it's that we're all different still. And yeah, if someone was raised in the, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 2000s, it's all going to be a little bit different. I mean, especially when you try to connect with somebody on like, basic, oh, did you see this movie or something? Or do you like this type of music and things like that? It'll completely, you're not even talking about adoption. You're just talking about just pop culture or things that you relate to, and they won't have a clue what you're talking about. So so I sometimes feel that way during our podcast, even though there's three of us, we're kind of all in the same, we're not exactly in the same waves. I guess KJ and Patrick are closer in the same one than I am, but yeah, we still have topics where we talk about, and you guys either look at me and like, nope, I have no clue what you're talking about, or I look at you and have the same feeling. But that's good, and that's I think that conversation is important as long as people are open-minded, and that is a struggle I think with the community out there. Is some people don't understand when you start engaging in an adoption community what type of people and wave the adoptees that you're talking with are from, because sometimes all it is a photo, or sometimes all it is a name. So especially on social media, you kind of get lost in just assuming maybe that everybody has similar thoughts as you. I don't know. What do you think, Shené? I know you discussed a little bit about the community, the adoption community, and of course the ones at Con too. What do you feel about, I guess, how do you look for a community that you relate to or that you get along with, that's more along the same page, or what you're looking for to help yourself with your thoughts and stuff?
Yeah, I think one thing that I've found, because I've really pulled back from like the social media piece and even thought about going back and forth, like, do I delete my Becoming Bolder account because I haven't really been on it? And part of me feels a little guilty because I'm like, there are people that I want to keep up with, but at the same time, I think it just got to a point where it felt like it was a lot. And I can talk a little bit more about like why I felt like it was a lot afterwards. But I think I've really been trying to engage with the community. I think for me, like one-on-one, like in much more controlled spaces and like, if possible, like in person, is better for me. Like, I like it better. I mean, just in general, like as I am, like as a human, I'm not a big person for small talk. Like I would rather sit with somebody and, have a conversation and not like spend 10 minutes, in between sessions where we just like sat and like cried next to each other and unpacked our trauma, but we like know nothing about each other. Right. So like I'm piloting an open mic, like oral storytelling workshop for BKA right now with a group of 7 other adoptees, which has been really nice because it's definitely just, you get to build like a little bit of a community and we get to know each other on more of a personal level. There's like a specific objective in mind. So it keeps kind of everybody like on task, but it's a little bit more direct. And it's a nice group. I think it spans, we definitely have some people who are from like the first wave of adoptees. And I think as the facilitator, I'm the youngest, like the most recently adopted. But I think just because of the setting, like it's a lot easier to have conversations and just have the opportunities to ask like, well, what did you mean by that? And just understand a little bit more. But the other thing that I've been working on, so the work that I went back to, I'm doing programming for Asian Girls Ignite in Denver, which serves AAPI, female identifying, queer and gender expansive students, grades 6 through 12. And it wasn't intentionally built as such, but it just so happens that a large amount of the cohort and a large number of the students, I want to say, not quite half, but maybe like 60-40 are adoptees. And it's been really interesting working with them because the organization as a whole is about AAPI pride, right? And having pride in your Asian identity and as well as your other identities and intersectionalities. And it's based on storytelling. So there are female identifying members of the community that they come in and they tell their story. And, the students reflect and they do activities based around that. But it's really kind of, I think, checked me in a way in how I think about how I talk about my adoption to the next generation. And I think it really is one of the things that made me want to step back from the social media space, because I think at least a lot of what I see on Instagram in particular, and like in my own sharing, right, of my own journey is very much like the 80s, 90s, and before that wave of adoptees, right? So we have a lot of very justified anger. We have a lot of unresolved relationship complications. And, it was different. And I think I definitely went through a period where like I was also like very angry about, my adoption. And I think a lot of people talk about it like when they first come out of the fog or whatever metaphor you want to use, right? There's like all that hate and kind of that just, yes, the apocalypse. Yeah. All of those like gross, like heavy,
KJTM
energy consuming feelings. But I found that I really needed to be careful because this generation of younger adoptees whose parents, and again, not all adoptive parents, but like whose parents are being proactive, like they're, and I think it's like some of your listeners that are adoptive parents that they're seeking out resources and they're trying to do it differently, than my parents or our parents. And they don't have those same feelings. And I think like genuinely don't have those same feelings, not like, oh, they just haven't realized it yet. They haven't hit the apocalypse, but I think it's different for them. And it really made me like take pause and think like, oh, like I can't, it's not necessarily appropriate for me to come out of the gate being like, well, why aren't you resenting your white family? Why aren't you, like, what do you mean you don't have these feelings? Because they genuinely don't. And like, that's okay. Right. Like I feel like there's, right. And I feel like there's a point where like, it's fine to have your feelings and it's fine to be angry and have all of these things. But at the same time, I like kind of get the feeling that sometimes we forget that it's like, okay to put down like whatever weapon, right? Like I feel like sometimes we run out and we're like, and sometimes like it's okay to put it down. Like it's okay if suddenly you look around and like you're not angry anymore or you've made peace with it. And it's okay for you to just like let it go. And I found that like staying on the social media space and seeing people, I think people process, I definitely was somebody who came out on social media and used it as like a form of processing, right? But when that's like what bombards you in the face all the time is like trauma after trauma after trauma, it makes you think about like, But am I personally still experiencing this trauma, or have I gotten to a point where I can grow? Like, am I allowing myself to sort of move on in other aspects of my life, or focus on other aspects of being an adoptee, being an Asian American, or whatever? And I think I thought too about just like having a kid now. Like, do I want to put or continue putting all of my own personal trauma on a public platform to stay like potentially in perpetuity? Like, I don't know. I think I struggle with like how much of it is educating, right? And I think education is good, but I am trying to be more mindful personally about like making sure that my education or my educating isn't being done by me like exploiting my own trauma, if that makes any sense. And I haven't, necessarily come up with any clear-cut answers, but that's why I kind of just disappeared for a while.
No, that makes sense. And I think like going back to my own experience, one of the reasons that I loved, and I still need to write about this, but I wanted to get the language of an apocalypse out first, because I will probably refer to it. But one of the reasons I loved hearing Stephanie and Jaehee speak was because they're two adoptees who I feel like have really moved through their moments of whether they were apocalyptic or however they want to describe those moments for them. They've moved through that and were able to use their life experience and like all of their life experience to present as leaders in this Asian American space with the fullness of their adoptee identities, like flavoring and adding complexity and adding nuance, but not being like the flame that all moths fly to, or without being like that singular like black hole that we just feel like. I think especially in 2020, what I saw in the adoptee space, even as lots of adoptees were kind of like hitting that moment of apocalypse, and having that revelation, what I saw was just a lot of people who were super against adoption, who were super against like their own experiences, who were like really fluent at being angry and not very fluent at moving through that. And I think that that's like some of our like generational inheritance, quote unquote, of first wave adoptees and second wave adoptees is I like to think that what I've contributed to the conversation is, well, I'm just sad and I'm moving through it. But that's like generally my life is I'm just a sad boy. But I think like thinking about all those things, like what you've experienced, Shené, is kind of that next wave of adoptees. And I think it is progress. And it's exciting to hear that there are adoptees for whom like they have very little, I guess, in common with our own adoption stories beyond just being adopted and being Asian and being transracially adopted, but that they have parents who do help them celebrate that and who help them navigate those apocalyptic moments with more grace and more nuance and more support, because they were prepared for this kind of thing and they're able to ease them into it. I think for so many adoptees, the reason that moment feels so big is because that moment is quite big and we don't have any
you're
language.
alone.
We don't have any training. We don't have any, you know what I mean? Like I think about even just like generally non-adopted BIPOC peoples in America usually have some type of other like elder in their community or whomever to say like, hey, this is what it means to be alive in America. And so you got to watch out for X, and then somebody else might come alongside them and be like, you got to be prepared for Y, and like make sure that you're thinking about Z. Like they have kind of a gradual introduction, even if it's just like, here's what happens when you get stopped by a cop, like that's like, it's a hard conversation, but it is just one time, and then they unfortunately get to practice that a lot. And they have other peers who have had, you know what I mean? Whereas like for adoptees, for us, for like old, quote unquote, older generations or older waves, there was just not that type of cultural collective kind of idea of like, this is what it means to be an adoptee. This is what it feels like to have this like massive identity revelation dropped on your head, and it's usually born out of trauma. It doesn't have to be born out of trauma though. So I think hearing stories of those revelations being pieced out and being like like just like given bit by bit and like supported in a loving environment, or at least an environment is like, I don't fully get it, but I'm at least aware of it happening, is really, really wonderful. I'm curious. So in listening to our last episode, which was like I said, it was like 20 episodes ago, maybe 30 episodes ago. So that's like about a year ago, probably in real time. I have no idea how math works. You had said like, I don't know how I feel about social media. I don't know about feeling the need to, when something happens, to post about it. I don't know what kind of all of this, right? I think you had recently reconnected with your birth mother. Also, your daughter was born like very like around that time, or I don't know. Like there's like a lot of life happening to you. So I'm curious, like as our first official like repeat guest on the show / first co-host who isn't one of the three of us / I don't know, you're checking a lot of boxes. So like Nathan and I are both like, how do we do this? But what's been the difference, I think, in your mind about like how, like where you sit with your adoptee identity, and like how you've alluded to this a little bit, but like how you're choosing to engage with social media and maybe the public sphere as someone who did have a podcast, was very public about things, and like what's been that process and that change since like all those initial things happened?
I hadn't like consciously thought about it this way, but I think the biggest shift that happened. So I will say I do still worry about like, should I say something? Should I not say something? And that's like when even Nathan was like, "What do you want to talk about today?" And I was like, because I was sharing with Ton. I was said, because I was talking to her about like, do I want to be on social media? Do I not want to? And I said, I feel pressure to like put out a post that explains why I'm not here. And I was like, and that in and of itself, like, is exactly why, like, I don't think I want to be here. Like, and like how much explanation do I owe? And I think part of it was that I let go of the fact that like I don't need to be the like not I don't want to say like not a voice in the room, like, right, like I don't want to say that like what I have to say doesn't matter or anything like that, but like I guess in that forum I feel like it's not a place where like I have to be commenting on everything, or that I have to say something. Like I really struggle kind of with the like adoptee influencer, I think I talked about this last time, kind of like thing that happens. But I think like in life, it's just, I have moved to the point in my adoption processing where I think like I've let go of feeling like a victim all the time. Like I acknowledge that like shit happened and things were not good and like things were not okay that happened and all of that. But like I've stopped carrying that in my backpack, like every single day, in every room that I enter and every interaction that I have. Like I've stopped just like walking around with this huge chip on my shoulder. And the reason that I did it was because I think really like having my daughter, like I was realizing like I don't want her to have that perception of me, that like, mom's life was horrible, or like the world is against mom, like because it's not true. But I think, staying in the social media space, constantly talking about the worst parts of my life, feeling like I have to talk about just the worst parts of my life, and that, you can't talk about the positive because that's not what the community wants to hear. Or if you talk about good things, like it might make people in the community feel bad. Like I think we're just very, and understandably so, right? Like trauma centered. And maybe we're all sad people. Like,
welcome to the club.
Right. But I think just that it, like, I felt like my life got so one-dimensional on that side that it was hard for me to like find the joy or find, any good or acknowledge any of the good that was maybe right in front of my face. And it's allowed me to connect more with both areas or both communities that I think we often talk about struggling to connect with. Like one being the Asian community that's a non-adoptee community, as a whole, and the other side being other white adoptive parents. I think like the more that I stopped kind of going into those spaces feeling like, well, they're going to treat me like an outsider and they've never given me a chance. And like, I need to prove myself. And again, with that chip on my shoulder, like the more I was able to see kind of like, no, not, maybe sometimes, right? And when it does happen, obviously, stand up for yourself and all of that and protect your peace, but that wasn't the case all of the time. And I think especially with my work with AGI, I did the summer camp in July, and it's called Representation. And we went to Chang'an Gifts and spoke to this woman whose family owns it, and she owns it. Her name is Mimi, and she is, yeah. And she was saying, she said, we have things in this shop from China, Korea, Japan, all of these places. And she said, and I don't know everything about everything that we have. She said, it's my job to know as the store owner, right? To be able to explain like what this means to this particular group of people and all of that. She said, but I have to research. She said, I Google, I ask people, I listen to other people's stories.
To Wikipedia.
Right. But I think just like hearing her say that and just watching her be like so open and welcoming and really saying to all of the students, and I think especially the adoptees, I know I took it to heart as an adoptee, saying like, just because you don't know something about Korean culture or Asian culture in general, like doesn't make you less of an Asian. Like we all need to learn, we all need to talk, like you're still one of us, like we're all the same. And that like largely has been my experience approaching and working with the Asian community, at least here in Denver, through AGI. And I think that, if I didn't drop that chip, that wouldn't be my experience. You know what I mean? It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like you feel like they're not going to accept you and you go in like that, and like they're not because of all the various reasons.
And I think that's like the catch-22 of it, is like, I do feel like a lot of adoptees are like, oh, trauma. And it's just like, as they unpack that and the more that they like fixate on that, the more that they are fixated on that and the more that they're stuck. But like to me, it represents like a very clear dialectic tension of like, you have to go through that to come beyond that or to move beyond that. And I just don't feel like enough people our age and older are equipped or have successfully navigated their way through those moments to come out the other side and say like, I did that, but I'm actually able to move on and experience that. And I do think like there's so much, even in what you said, that reminds me of like how we as both like minorities within a minority, as new minority peoples, have so much to learn from like communities that have been marginalized publicly for much longer. Like I think about all of the rallying cries from like the Black and queer communities to each other, like celebrate Black love, celebrate Black joy, celebrate queer love, celebrate queer joy. Like these are calls and reminders to their own communities. Be like, there has been a lot of shit that has happened to our communities in the history of being alive in America, and there's been a lot of good. And if you spend so much time focusing on those moments of pain and those moments of trauma, like that's all you're going to think about yourself. But there's so much more to celebrate. I mean, and I go back to it time and time again, but that's why we want to be the Janchi Show, why we want to be like a podcast that does the celebrating, that does the lighthearted, that does the humor, because like there are so many other great podcasts who do lots of other things for our community. But like for us, that was a very clear gap, was like, where's the adoptee joy and the adoptee love and the, those kinds of things. And so, I think it's really lovely that you were able to put that down and to move through the chip on your shoulder, because I think it's important. And I think that really does like help push our community forward.
There's a lot of things. I mean, we talked about it at the very beginning of our shows that we, frequently we used to say that, we are not a monolith and that we can't have this one story. And I I think we've proven that all of the stories over the 100+ episodes that we've had, a lot of them have similar tones, but a lot of them are completely different. And some are good, some are bad, some are happy, some are sad. And I really like that about what we have done and about the community itself. And from what I've seen in both Instagram and Facebook, I've seen a little bit of both of it, but I agree that if I start seeing too much of one thing, I start feeling that, and I start feeling and seeing these negative tones, and I don't like that because I've had such a positive experience with it. And again, I like you said, I feel guilty if I start talking too much about the positives of it, and then I like, oh, I don't want to, downplay everyone else's story and things like that. But I have to just keep reminding myself that I'm not doing that. I'm doing it for me. I'm doing social media for me. I'm explaining my story so that maybe somebody else who has a good story can see that and relate to it, or give somebody else hope. Which we've had a couple messages from people that have said things like they appreciate some of the things we've said because it's convinced them or inspired them to do something that they originally were not going to do. And that that's half the reason why we do this, right? So. Going to that in that direction, what kinds of things are you looking for now going forward in the community? What are you hoping to do? You said you kind of are teasing about the idea of either ending your social media or maybe revamping it, or is there something that you want to do for yourself, going forward?
I don't know. I think for now, the Instagram account is just going to stay up, but probably dormant. I think, I mean, we all know, but I think Nathan, just because you also have 3 children running around, get the time is very, very limited and very much a commodity. So I think I've really been trying to figure out and find the spaces that I can engage with the community, but that fits organically into my life. I spend a lot of time, 3 of my closest mom friends are also Korean adoptees, and, we see them a lot. And it's great because it's one of those things, we're talking about going to Korea next year with one of them, if not more of them, and doing a big kind of just parents adoptee in our kids trip. But it's nice because we have moved past the just talking about adoption stuff, right? We talk about is your kid sleeping? Is your kid pooping? Is it what's happening? And it just so happens that we're all adoptees, but that doesn't define our friendship. It doesn't define, every conversation, everything that we do. And I think those are the experiences that I'm really looking to cultivate more of, to have it be that, that's the adoptedness isn't the sole focus of everything. It's a nice to have if it creates a level of empathy and understanding, but that it's just not, we're not one dimensional in that way. So yeah, more opportunities like that, more small groups. I haven't decided if I want to go to con next year or not. I think it's largely going to depend upon family stuff and all the mom things. But I think just trying to be a little more thoughtful and a little more intentional about my own energy and capacity.
Yeah, same thing. I mean, we hang out with Lana a lot, and we met her through the show originally, and through through you and your Facebook group that you started a while back as well. But yeah, we don't talk about Korean things or adoption things. We talk about food and hiking and things like that. But that's just normal stuff. We've just moved past the adoption as the basis of original conversation, and yeah, it's come down to just who we are as people and what our likes and dislikes are. And I appreciate those types of friendships. I think those are the ones that will last longer too, than something that's just a commonality or coincidence. But what about you, KJ? What are you looking for? I know you're busy, but are you moving on to anything? Are you going to start writing some more songs?
Probably not writing songs. I'm actually really actively thinking about how I want to use my time, not for the community, but I can't remember if I've talked about this on the show, but just talking about the idea of loving my limits. So I think as a moment and as a means of starting with like self-love is like recognizing that I want to be a specific kind of person that naturally limits my ability to be a different type of person. And even though I might want to be both people, like which identity is most important to me? Who do I want to be? And how do I have to then change the way that I live my life to be that person? And so, as like this whole summer has been a whole like season of like wrapping things up so that I can rest, and wrapping things up or giving things away even so that I can focus more on who I want to be. And so like I'm really excited that like I'm only busy professionally coming into this next season. You know, like I'm not busy personally and busy professionally and busy with the podcast and busy with, you know, whatever. It's like, it's actually only, it's just normal work busy. So it's a lot, but it's work busy. And from there, you know, consider like, I would love to write more blog posts because generally that's all people do on Instagram these days anyways. And why would I put that on Instagram when I could just put it on my blog and then share it out across any social media that comes and goes as it will, you know? So like, but I realize like writing takes time, and it takes time. Not only does it take time to actually do the craft of writing, but it actually takes time away from time I could spend with my wife. It takes time away from time I could spend at the gym, which I don't spend at the gym currently, but I would like to get there eventually. Time that I like, it takes time away from time that I could use to rest or to recharge or to, you know what I mean? And so like, given that, I'm like, okay, how do I budget this thing that I want to do for who I want to be? Like start with a love of my limits and not just be like, oh my God, I don't know. I guess I'm just going to wake up earlier or whatever. Just like constantly like, but it's actually like, to me, it's a very conscious reversal of like the hustle game that everyone is a part of. And that like, I think that the world is increasingly being that people in a certain socioeconomic class of America are increasingly being privy to is like, yeah, just hustle more and do the thing, whatever. And that's so exciting. Like, yeah, it is, but it's also exhausting. And I'd actually rather start from the reverse and work towards, you know, whatever kind of thing. So I think that's where I'm leaning, is learning to love my limits, practicing loving my limits as a means of loving myself, and then seeing like, with the time that I have left, here are the things that I can do. So yeah, that's like generally where I'm at. So I hope to be posting more to my blog, so that like, because I think bring blogging back, because why give your time to social medias? Like if you're gonna, if what you're doing on social media is mostly for you anyways, just have a blog and share it with your friends, and you know, and do that on social media. But well, it's not even that. Yeah, it's not even that you're the owner of it, but like if it's mostly therapeutic, then just like do it in your own space. So it's like technically public, but who's going to go? No one's going to come knocking on the door of your website necessarily unless you invite them over. And I think that's an easier kind of thing. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
If you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you have a good blog, people will read it. So
that's what I've heard.
Yeah. I don't know. I hate blogging. But speaking of things,
but you did it for like a whole month last year.
I know. So, and then look what happened. I stopped. I got burnt out. I'm done. Now I just post food photos. But speaking of food, would you guys like to jump into a food?
Yeah, this feels like a good time.
All right.
All right. Here we go. Here's the music cue.
Welcome back to the food portion, the part of the show where Nathan buys snacks, hopefully from Korea, but this one is not. This one is actually a snack from Taiwan, but it's okay. It's an Asian snack. It's something that we have not tried before, right? So
I guess there's literally no Korean on this package.
Yeah, I know.
Besides what it says, imported by Seoul Trading USA.
And that's what I saw. I think when I bought it, it was the Seoul Trading Company, and I immediately just went to, oh, it's Korean. And then I bought it, and I was like, and then I looked at it. But I don't care. It looks good. I can make a mistake, right?
No.
I mean, we haven't really said
Shené, you're hired permanently.
Haven't we, though? Taking over.
I know Nathan drove it over to my house and I looked at it.
Yeah, she knew instantly when she saw it. She goes,
I was like, is this Korean?
So, see, we should hire Shené to do our snacks. So,
I was about to like throw shade at you because I was like, just look for the Korean writing. Then I was like, well, actually, maybe you don't know the Korean script. And actually, one of the other things we had was Korean. And I was like, is that Korean? It looks Japanese to me. So never mind.
Yeah,
but
I know.
Yeah.
You never know. So
you're allowed to make one mistake. So you've
I
made
literally have to look for the 3 words product of Korea. But unfortunately, this one says product of Taiwan. So, but that's okay. So I know I got us all different flavors because I thought it would be, it's popcorn. So,
okay, but what is it, Nathan, specifically?
It's
like what's the
candy coated popcorn. So everyone has a different flavor, I think. I'm not sure. I know, Shené, I gave you the strawberry.
Mm-hmm.
And
interesting.
I have brown sugar bubble tea.
Ooh.
Also interesting. Okay, I have a very basic caramel.
Oh, the caramel. Okay, and then I gave Patrick the chocolate, but he's not here, so he'll have to do a live or something later and tell us how it is. But different flavors. They had a lot of different flavors, which I thought was interesting. So even just for the fact of let's have some variety and see which one tastes best. And I don't know, but I like popcorn. So and I like bubble tea, and I like caramel and strawberry. So. I don't know. I hope all of yours are tasty.
This is by Candy Poppy, I think is the brand.
Yeah.
And then on the back, it says Stay Poppin'. But on the front, it says, clearly this has been enlarged. What does it say? Clearly this popcorn has been enlarged to show texture.
Hey, they're at least
and that's how you know it's not a Korean product.
For honesty right there.
No,
I like that.
You know it's not a Korean product because no Korean product maker would ever be so rude as to say, clearly this popcorn has been enlarged to show texture. As if to say, you fool. How could you possibly mistake this?
Don't sue us because the product doesn't look like what it is on the front of the package. It's a liability thing.
Also, okay, other fun language. On the back, it says shelf life, 1 year. Okay, cool. Expiry date. Printed on the package. Like, again, so rude.
Obviously.
At least they use the please for please store in a dry and cool place.
There you go.
I guess. All right. Well,
hey, it is a 2020 Brussels International Taste Institute Superior Taste Award as well. So,
all right. Well, I went to open it with the little tab thing, and the tab thing just ripped off.
Oh, boo! Mine's coming off.
You just lost
real
a star,
nice,
Candy Poppy.
Mine ripped off too.
Mine came off real easy, guys. What's going on?
I might need scissors.
Well, you guys are getting scissors. Ooh, no, I love boba milk tea, so brown sugar bubble milk tea. I like that. I wish I had some of that to drink while I was eating this. Actually,
mine smells like Fruit Loops.
Fruit Loops, interesting.
Like,
do you like strawberry
like fruity pebbles
things, Shené?
I guess it depends upon. You know how like some stuff is like that really artificial strawberry flavor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much, which kind of smells like it might be, but
I don't know. I mean, how do you get a brown sugar bubble milk tea into a popcorn? I don't know.
I'd be curious how different yours taste, Nathan, than KJ's, because I feel like brown sugar bubble tea seems very similar to caramel.
Look, it's enlarged for your
tasting
pleasure.
Is that what it
Clearly.
is? To show texture.
Clearly, this is enlarged because I'm holding it up to the camera. It's popcorn.
I'm going to say this is not great.
It tastes like the Captain Crunch berries.
Wow. Captain Crunch makes a resurgence on the podcast.
Mm-hmm. Watch your gums. I don't know. These are actually pretty big popcorn.
I'm going to keep eating it because I'm hungry, but it's not great.
I'm not getting a whole lot of flavor with mine. Like it's pretty mild. I'd have to have a bubble tea to compare.
I don't have a lot to say about it. It's popcorn. I think most people have had a flavored popcorn before.
Yeah.
Like I said, not impressed with the package. Not impressed with the caramel flavor. It's like burned caramel flavor. It's strong, but it's Yeah, it's just not that good. Unless I feel like in America you get like caramely chunks, and this one does not feel like it has the chunk. It's just like it's a very thin coating, which actually I think does work in its favor. But the caramel itself is not high quality, so I'm gonna give it a 2.25 out of 5. Wait, 2.25 poppies out of 5.
Candy poppies
are really not that good, but I'm hungry. Maybe that's why I think it's as good as it is. I don't know.
So, it might get a better rating right now if you were full.
No, I'm saying 2.25. 2.25 is the better rating. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No, Shené,
I will say I do appreciate, how like, and maybe this is just because mine is strawberry, but I feel like, how sometimes you eat caramel corn and the caramel gets like really stuck in your teeth and it just kind of like builds up as you eat more pieces. This doesn't do that. It's like a little bit lighter, which I like.
But like, how many pieces have you eaten?
I don't know, maybe like 8.
Okay, because I'm like halfway through my
I've been taking them one at a time. Yeah, I'm not like shoving fistfuls in my mouth, like, or taking it straight from the bag.
I'm
like
so hungry. Nathan's like, is there any flavor in here?
I'm like, more in my mouth. Maybe it'll taste more caramely, more like sugar tea. I get a brown sugar flavor, but
no, I'd give it like a the strawberry, like I don't know, 2.5, 3. Like it's not bad. It's not the best thing either, but
so
it's like weirding me out that it tastes like fruity cereal with milk.
Fruity cereal.
Oh, it tastes like the milk is included. Well, that's intriguing.
Yeah, it's like
because it's kind of creamy.
Yeah, almost like the what were they? Do they still make those? Like the cream savers? They were like lifesavers, but they were like berry flavored with.
Whoa!
I don't know.
No,
Am I like dating myself?
I've not seen those in a while. I don't think I've had those.
Maybe you're just regioning yourself.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Is it like? Wait, how long were you in the New York area?
From when I was a baby till 18. My whole like.
Okay, so maybe it's just like a regional thing. Maybe it didn't make its way to the South.
Maybe. But I also think that I haven't seen them since like 1998. So it could just be that they went away.
I mean, all three of us were alive in 98, so there was potential, but I feel like if we don't all three know about it, then maybe it's just a region. You regionalist?
Just wasn't looking for lifesavers apparently in the 90s. I like it. It's not a super strong flavor. Mine is actually, you were saying that yours doesn't collect in your mouth or the caramel or whatever. Mine is kind of collecting in my mouth and my teeth. Like I feel like I got to go brush my teeth after this. Otherwise I'm going to get a cavity. You should. But I wouldn't, the flavor is good. I wouldn't necessarily, it's a brown sugar bubble tea. I mean, that's so specific, brown sugar bubble milk tea flavor. I don't really feel like that's what it screams to me. I just feel like it's a candy coating, maybe like a brown sugar coating, I guess. But it is building up. It's good. It's light. It's not super thick. I mean, it's popcorn. I like that it's air popped. I'm not getting a ton of kernels. You know, like when you eat some popcorns and it's just way too much like, I don't know, like the really crunchy kernels of a popcorn. Like, I don't like that. This is like the big air puffed circular ones, which I like. So it's good flavor. It's not the best caramel popcorn I've ever eaten. So yeah, I'll give it about a 3.5, I think. I'd be curious to try the other flavors, but
I gotta stop eating that.
Yeah, I like it. Clearly, I like candy. So.
Were there other flavors besides Crunch? These 4?
I think so. I'm trying to remember if matcha was one of them. I feel there was a few. I don't remember all of them. Again, I run out of ideas when I'm there. I just like look for whatever's good or new or whatever. And this was one that I saw multiple flavors, thinking, "Oh, this would be fun. We could all try different flavors." Clearly, I didn't read the label well enough. I was enticed by the giant texture of the kernels on the front.
Was gotten by the texture. I'm actually going to amend my rating right now to a 1.75, knocking it a whole half a point because I've only eaten half of it and I feel sick already. So
No.
That's not great. It's got 12 sugars and 12 added sugars. So don't give it to your kids.
Well, hey, it's not expired, so at least I didn't fail on that one.
Or you didn't fail, and also we didn't fail for eating it in time. So there's that.
That's good point. Well, all right. Well, we'll have to see what Patrick thinks of the chocolate one. Oh, when he gets back. Well, that was fun, Shené. Thank you so much.
Thanks for jumping in,
for coming on again, and
no problem.
Being the new Patrick. So, but we appreciated you coming on. Where can listeners find you if you want? There's on your page or your Instagram or a blog
that you're going to start. Send you
I have one that's still just sitting dormant. I guess if they want to find old things, they can follow my non-currently active Instagram page. Becoming Bolder is still there. Soul Conversations is still up. TRA Mom Confessions, I think I am going to close, though, just so people know that's going to be going away. But otherwise, I think just in the world, in the flesh, old school style.
Go play Pokemon Go, and you'll find her pop up every now and then in the tall grass.
You should start a competing Instagram from Patrick. Shené in the world.
Shené in the world. Oh gosh.
Oh geez.
But yes, we really appreciated you coming on and talking with us again, and hopefully we didn't. I don't know. I forgot what I was going to say.
What?
Hopefully we didn't ramble too much. I just
hopefully
did.
We I was losing steam.
I was losing. Well, it's usually when we do the solo shows, we just ramble and just talk about nonsense sometimes, and then we just jump into a topic and it works out. But I wanted to make sure that this time we had an actual structure with Shene. I don't want to
new person, new dynamic,
unprofessional or anything.
I mean, if you go back and listen to our original 3 episodes, we were very structured. So
it's true.
It's not
gone away from that.
Not unknown for us. So yeah. If you want to reach out to us, you can do so by following at Janchi Show on all of our social media platforms. Send us an email, janchishow@justlikemedia.com. You can leave us a voicemail if you'd like to, 972-677-8867. You can hang out with us in the Facebook group, the Janchi Show After Party. That's how that's called. Oh yeah, you can support the show by going to janchishow.com/live. It feels like forever since I've done this, and it's not even been that long. Otherwise, you can follow. Did I not say that? I said /live.
That's okay.
That's probably not even going to be applicable. It's fine. janchishow.com/support is where you go to support the show. I still feel like it's September. It's fine. If you want to reach out to me, you can find me at KJ Relke wherever I want to be found on the internet. You can reach out to Patrick at Patrick in the World wherever he wants to be found on the internet. Also, maybe give him a follow on LinkedIn. He's Patrick Armstrong, specifically the Asian one. Nathan, where can people find you?
And Nowak on Instagram and Nathan Nowak on Facebook. And that is the places that we are in the world.
Yeah, we did it. Thanks, everybody. Until next Wednesday.
Again.
Janchi.
Thanks, Janae.